Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you some of the things that I did for the latest How I Built It redesign. So you can visit the site by going to howibuilt.it and seeing the brand new design here. The theme is a Genesis child theme called Monochrome Pro, which I got from Studio Press. I will link that in the description below. But I want to talk about some of the modifications that I made. So this was my first time using the Genesis framework. I have a custom plugin that I use to associate sponsors and transcripts with an episode. And the episodes are powered by the PowerPress plugin. So there are a few things at play here. There is the Monochrome Pro Genesis child theme. There's the PowerPress plugin by Blueberry, which is what powers my podcast website. And then there is my own custom plugin called Podcatcher, which generates some of the custom post types and associates them with the episodes. That's all done using Fields Manager, and that plugin is available on GitHub. Again, I will link that in the notes below as well. So there are a few pretty nifty things that I did here. The first was I modified a lot of the main loops for the home page, for the episode page, to display things the way that I wanted. If we go to the episode's archive page, we'll see something similar. One of my big goals for this redesign was to make the episodes easy to binge, so I included only what I thought was the essential content. And you'll notice that I have the sponsors there too. I wanted to really increase visibility for the sponsors. I want to make sure that they are getting their best, they're getting in front of as many people as possible, because they are what makes the show happen. They're the reason that this show can be free, and they are the reason that this show has transcripts. Speaking of, if I click on show notes and transcript, it'll take me to a single episode. So if you click through on the archive, you'll go to the episode page where you'll see the description and the show notes. If you want to view the transcript, you can do that as well. And you'll notice that I've modified the transcript template to pull in the episode as well as the sponsors. That was a big change that I made. Originally, in the previous design, the transcript was just at the bottom of the episode page, and that's great, but it made the page really long. So I thought, well, I'll give the transcript its own page. It'll be its own canonical URL that people can link directly to, and if they want to listen along, they can do that as well. Something else that I added was a better sponsor page. So if we go to let's choose Pantheon. They are Season 5's season-long sponsor. The previous design didn't have a dedicated sponsor page, or not a good one at least. So I wanted to fix that as well. If people want to see what episodes the sponsor has supported, they could see that. So we have the logo, the name, we have the excerpt or the information, the copy, a big old button that will take them to the sponsor's link, and then a list of all the episodes that they sponsored in chronological order from oldest to newest. I was really excited about adding this, and I'll show you the code that got it done. So those are the big modifications. Oh, and the last one is improved search. So this was something that I was very excited to introduce. I picked up SearchWP, and I made some modifications using their hooks that I'll get into that associate the transcript with the episode. So instead of having separate results where you could go to the transcript or the episode, what I did was I said, yes, crawl the transcripts. Don't link to the transcripts. Instead associate that data with the episode that it's associated to. And let's just get into how I did that. So I'm going to do my best to make as much of this code available as possible. Monochrome Pro is a paid theme, so I don't want to just give that away. But I will modify some of the files and make them available on GitHub so you can download this code. There are, if you're, well, first of all, if you are unfamiliar with the way Genesis works, I'm not going to be great at describing it because I just started getting into the development, but Genesis has just tons of hooks and filters, actions and filters for basically every step of the WordPress loop, every step of the templating process. So when you want to modify something, you're going to have to tap into that. I used a great plugin to display all of the hooks as they're being called, so I could figure out when exactly I needed to make a change. And that was the biggest learning curve. But once you learn it, it's really nice. It does a very good job of making sure that you can easily modify your templates without actually, copying and pasting loop information and things like that. So this is my functions.php file for the theme. I made a few additions here, like customizing the post information. I probably should have commented this better, but I was learning along the way. I'm not exactly sure why I'm returning nothing here. Put existing post information. So again, I'm not quite sure why I'm doing that. So we'll just kind of move along here. One of the more simple actions is, changing the read more excerpt text. And I changed that to get the show notes. One of the other things I did was, again, I wanted to make the archive pages kind of as tight as possible. So I only included the featured image for the latest episode. If we go back to the site, to the homepage, you'll notice that the main image is there for the first episode, but it is missing from the rest. And again, because I wanted to make it easy for people to scroll through and listen to episodes and binge the way they want. So before the Genesis loop, what I'm doing is I'm doing a check to see if we're on the homepage, and if we are on the homepage, I am removing the do post image action. Right, this is the thing that makes Genesis so powerful, is you can add and remove as you want. So if it's the homepage, I'm doing the post image, and then I'm doing the episode content, and we can jump down here to see what those functions do. So Hibby do post image. I'm getting the global WP query. I'm checking to see if we're on the first post, and then I am manually calling this function. So I removed the action, and instead, if it's the first post, I'm manually calling that function. Remember that with actions and filters, you have the name of the action, which is essentially an event that fires off, and then the function that you want to call. So I knew that Genesis do post image was a function, and as long as it's a public function, I can call that myself, which it is. And then Hibby do post content. PowerPress has a shortcode that is used to pull in the audio and any other information, like the subscription information. So I am echoing the results of the executed shortcode. I'm also checking to see if there is a get sponsor feed function, and I'm calling that as well. And this is part of my podcatcher. My podcatcher plugin, so I'm checking to make sure my plugin is enabled. And then I am printing out just the text version of the sponsor information. So I have two ways that you can display sponsors, either the logos or just the text. I want the text in the feeds, but on the homepage, I'm promoting the current week's sponsors, and I didn't want that page to get too gunked up with just like a bunch of repeated images. It's also, I want the page to load as fast as possible. So I'm just loading text there. I changed the footer credits. You can change the footer credits fairly easily with Genesis. I'm using advanced custom fields, so I've enabled the early access features. I don't know that I'm actually using any of them, but I've enabled that there. And then here's the SearchWP stuff. We're going to get to that next, but first I want to show you some of the templates that I modified, right? So as I understand Genesis, the best thing to do if you want to modify the theme is actually to modify the child theme. And that is because, and somebody please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but you can't have grandchild themes, right? So you have a parent theme and a child theme. You can't go down any further than that. And I'm certain that there are some good design decisions behind that, like you're increasing the complexity of the dependencies if you allow for grandchild themes, right? And I'm telling you that because the way that Genesis works is they have, they have all these hooks and actions, and they essentially have one loop call that is the Genesis loop to allow for people to make modifications to the child themes and then just get the updates from the Genesis parent theme. So my understanding is that I will never see an update pushed for Monochrome Pro. I will see the update get pushed for Genesis. Therefore, the best thing to do if you want to modify a theme is to actually just make modifications to the child theme. So I created a separate category page for episodes, and using the Genesis loop, it would just call the default loop for whatever the category template is. The only things that I did here were I removed the action for the post image. I removed the post image completely, and do post content. Instead, I wanted to do the episode content again. So that's why the homepage and the archive page look similar, except for you don't see any featured images on the archive page. If we get to the search page, I've made some modifications here. This was already there when I got here, just for the search title. But I replaced the post content with the excerpt, and I removed the content filter, remove filter on the content, append sponsors. So if we go and look at the search results, we can see exactly what that does. So you can see I'm not really promoting the sponsors on the search results page, but I do have the episode cards here. I essentially did this to, I assumed that people were looking for a specific episode, and I wanted to present that information to them as quickly as possible. And then they could click through to see all of the information that they want. I also added the single sponsor and single transcript templates. Those naturally did not come with Monochrome Pro because they are dependent on my plugin. So one of the things I did here, which I'm pretty proud about, I added a featured image. But if we scroll down to the get episodes by sponsor function, so I'm using Fields Manager, which is a free framework similar to CMB2. I learned about it when I was at Crowd Favorite from one of my coworkers. And they had a very easy mechanism for associating multiple posts without using the now deprecated post to post. So I was able to register my custom post types, create the fields, and then add essentially an association field. The problem with that is I didn't know that they serialized that data, which means that they took it and they compressed it down to, just like it looks like a string of gibberish. So I can't just do a search for the IDs of the episodes that are associated. I can't get like an array of IDs back. What I have to do instead is use the meta query on the episode sponsor key. I have to convert the ID to a string and then use the like comparator. This is giving me the results I want, where I'm grabbing, it's essentially saying like do a string search for the IDs and pull them back. And then I'm able to print that list of information here. So I was pretty proud when I figured out that, because I thought it was going to be a lot easier. If I you can't okay so and you can in Fields Manager unserialize that data, but you will lose any previous information. So if you're using Fields Manager and you're configuring something for the first time, and I think it's maybe safest to unserialize the data unless you're absolutely certain you're not going to want to run custom queries on whatever you're doing. Because this is working for me, but there could be a point where something gets all messed up, and maybe just the number, something that matches the ID shows up, and I'm getting results that I didn't expect. But I can also strengthen this query a little bit to say, like, grab specifically grab the post type post in the category episodes. There are a few things I could do to strengthen this query, but for now it's doing what I need it to do. So I don't want people commenting on my sponsor pages. So that is the single sponsor template. And the coolest thing I did there, like I said, was grab the episodes by sponsor. I did something similar for the transcript page, where I have get episode by transcript, and I had to do the same, grab the ID using the like comparator. And I wanted to do that so that I could print the episode information right at the top of the transcript, so that people didn't have to have two windows open or bounce back and forth to listen to the episode while reading the transcript. So those are the custom templates that I added. I made some slight modifications to the single post. If we scroll down here, I removed some information from the footer. I forced the full width. Like I said, I do need to comment this a little better. I was kind of learning Genesis development while going through this process. But those are the customizations that I made. Like I said, Genesis, once you kind of figure everything out, it makes it pretty easy to modify the things that you want to modify. I was able to do this over the course of a few days. Once I figured it out, I was actually like in Starbucks when I figured out and really understood how Genesis worked. And I clapped my hands because I was really excited, and I realized I made a scene. The last thing that I want to show you, I teased a little bit, was the SearchWP stuff. So I didn't think that this was possible. I thought I would have to do something crazy, but Jonathan Christopher, the guy who develops SearchWP, is very good and had these two filters for me to change the indexing for SearchWP. So in this first function, what I'm doing is I am creating a pseudo meta field. So I'm kind of creating a fake meta field called transcript content. And then what I'm doing is I'm using my built-in function. WPP is the prefix. It stands for, I think it probably stands for WordPress Podcatcher. Transcript content, and then I'm grabbing the content based on the ID that's being indexed. So I'm returning the transcript content as a big old blob, and I am putting it in a pseudo meta field. This is not something that's accessible on any interface within the WordPress admin, called transcript content. Then I am, and this was code that was completely provided by Jonathan in the SearchWP documentation. I'm merging my custom meta keys with the existing ones. So I've added an array for the transcript meta keys. I am merging that with the keys that already exist. I'm making sure there are no duplicates, and I'm returning all of the keys. So that is the basics of what's going on here. So if we look at the indexer here, you'll see that I have a new custom field called WPP transcript, and I can add a weight to this. So maybe I want to add a little bit more weight to it. But either way, I can exclude the transcript post type here, and instead just index the content and associate it with the posts. So that is everything. I know this was a kind of a long episode. I'll make the code available on GitHub, and I'll link that in the description below, as well as to some of the other tools I'm using. But those are the things that I did to really modify this Genesis child theme Monochrome Pro, which I'm a big fan of. I'll link that in the show notes as well. And I think improve the browsing experience for the listener, the searching experience. I'm approaching 100 episodes, so I have some other plans as well for maybe how I want to group episodes or make them findable. And I know that SearchWP is the thing that will help me along with that. And then improve things to really get the sponsors more front and center without being obnoxious about it, right? Because I know that people are coming for the content. The sponsors make that content possible. So thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. Hey everybody, I hope you liked that video. If you did, if you could click the like button below, maybe subscribe to the channel, that would be great. I have lots of great content here. I'm also working on a new course called Build Your Podcast Website with WordPress. So if you liked this video in particular and you want to learn how to do this from start to finish with no steps skipped, starting at like buying hosting and ending with launching your podcast on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, this course is going to cover all that. It's launching later in September. You can click the link somewhere around here. I think it might be this way or maybe that way. And you can pre-order the course. Go ahead and click that link. It's up here or it's in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, get out there and build something.